Morning, everyone. Today we'll quickly do the concepts of long-run costs. And if you can recollect the major difference between the short run and the long run based on my lectures in class and the video on time periods. That long run is the time period when all the resources change, wherein practically everything changes and the business can be actually expanding. And why does a business need to expand? Could be because if you just look at this particular one, as in if this business wanted to produce, let's say, 3,000 units, you can see if it continued with the same existing business. So let's say, Taylor's College has got a branch in Waterloo and it wants to have more than 3,000 students. Having 3,000 students in that little campus could mean a much higher cost per unit for them. So it might be a better idea to have yet another campus, maybe in town hall or somewhere else, maybe because there the cost would be lower. So the cost goes down here, right? So a business expands in the long run. It can have multiple setups. That's the bottom line. Yeah. Moving forward with this, what is long run? I repeat, long run is the time period with practically all the resources can be changed. Everything becomes, all factors of production become variable, right? And we also remember, I hope we all remember, the production function that I have been always saying or talking about, that is output is a function of inputs. What does that mean? It depends on, output depends on these inputs, right? So if there's an increase in inputs, definitely there's bound to be an increase in output. But the question arises whether this input will lead to a more change in output or a little change in output, right? And that means, again, you can see this long run, everything is changing. Everything is changing. All the factors of production are changing, not that only one. If it was short run, maybe it would have been, one and then, labor is only changing. So in the short run, one factor is fixed, other is changing. Long run, everything is changing. All resources are changing. And if the input rises by 20% and the output increases, let's say, by 40%, you can see that there is more returns, right? More output, right? Far more output in relation to the inputs. And that means as the output increases, as the productivity increases, cost goes down. And that's why the cost is going down, right? If the two were equal, that is, let's say 20%, I increase the inputs by 20% and I'm having an increase in my output also exactly by 20%, pretty much like, your elasticity concept, the unitary elastic, cause and effect equal unit, right? So no change, we call it constant returns. The costs are stagnant, they are stable. And if by changing the inputs almost, let's say, by 20%, but if I had an increase in the output only by 10% or 15 or 18 or even 19, as long as the increase in output is lesser than the change in input, I'm definitely having decreasing returns, right, in my business. And that would mean the costs are going up. And this is typically how a long run cost curve is analyzed. And remember the word, whenever you see the word increasing or decreasing returns to scale. This is a little hint, the scale is a very good word that tells you straight on that we are talking about the long run, because we are talking of the change in scale of operations, the change in the very scale of operation. Before we had only one short run average cost curve here to look at. Now we are looking at, a planning curve, because in the long run, I've got all my, businesses being talked about. in totality here, right? So in the long run, now I believe you can easily understand this. Increasing returns is all about decreasing costs. And decreasing returns is all about increasing costs in the long run. In the long run, the smile has gone broader. That's the only difference. In the short run, we had, you know. So another one that you may want to remember is that when you talk about the short run and the long run, in the short run, rather the increasing returns, it is also referred to as economies of scale. So easy trick, economies of scale is nothing but it is just about, the advantages, the benefits of producing at a large scale. So when you're producing at a large scale, naturally, if you have to buy raw materials, as in, the resources, because you're buying at large scale, you can have a better discount, right? You can go in for a better negotiation in terms of your pricing. On a large scale, maybe you have more workers, specialized staff, again, more productivity. So when you're operating at a large scale, your costs are likely to go down, and that's called the benefits of producing at large scale. And just in contrast of the same, long run average cost curves is all about this here, economies of scale. When it becomes too much of an issue in terms of, you're producing at large scale and you're not, in other words, is you're having increasing costs. Increasing costs or decreasing returns. Not a big difference, right? This is decreasing returns or increasing costs. Just opposite. If you really see this again and again, I'm emphasizing. So diseconomies is the problems that come up because of operating at large scale or producing at large scale. And the problems that actually lead to increasing costs or decreasing productivity. This is what it is. Internal economies and diseconomies of scale. Internal means within the control of the business. Things that the business can control or has a control on. And what are the things that a business has a control on? How many workers does it employ? Maybe. What raw materials or factors of production does it buy? And at what price? The technology it wants to implement. The scale or the size it wants to operate at. That is all in the control of the business, right? Internal. Or, how it manages its people. It's all in the control of the business. But can the business control the taxes that the government is imposing or the grants like a subsidy that the government is giving? Can the business control the roads, infrastructure? No. And that is called external economies or diseconomies of scale. Get this right here, okay? So internal and external. The idea is same. Economies is all about benefits. I'll rather type it because otherwise I'll go messy here again. So yeah, economies, as I gave you the word benefits. Diseconomies, maybe think of the problems, yeah, or the issues that can lead to increasing costs. Problems that lead to increasing costs. Benefits that lead to decreasing costs. That's it. So if we can, if you get that idea, I'll move on further now, go more specific for you. So internal economies, the benefits of producing at a large scale to the business for the reasons that are within the control of the business. And one of them is management efficiency. So yes, because the business is growing large and maybe the management operations is likely to be more effective because you can have more specialized staff. Also, you can offer better salaries because you're a large organization, and that can make the people work better and realize more efficiency, right? That's called, that's an economics concept beyond your scope right now, but it's called efficiency wages hypothesis. So yes. Division of labor. If you can visualize, and I'll give you a very nano example. Think of the Starbucks coffee outlet and think of a coffee shop next to your house, a small one, wherein, in fact, sometimes even the customer themselves have to kind of, make that coffee for themselves. Let's say about, maybe in 7-Eleven. And just the opposite, Starbucks, you have a specific person, designated person for making the coffee, designated people to serve the coffee and clean the tables, plus take the billing. So specialization. And if you do something, when you have division of labor, people get more specialized, and when they get more specialized, they are more productive, and when they are more productive, the cost will go down, output will increase. Capital widening and capital deepening, because both the things happen in a bigger organization. How is it happening? Widening is more capital. In other words, simple example, if each of your lecturer has a laptop provided by its organization, capital widening, all of us have better equipments to be able to organize ourselves. Capital deepening here is, not many people would have thought of it 3 years back, 5 years back, maybe, before the pandemic also, having those online lectures and Zoom and having those trainings and flipped learning and so many other things that have gone in play since the pandemic situation, right? So that is a part of capital deepening, when every teacher of yours is more equipped to be able to deliver lessons from home or in the classroom through the Zoom and other devices. So this is better understanding of those resources and better capital advance. Indivisibility of the capital also. So naturally, when the organization becomes larger, there is a greater chance of having capital widening and deepening. Plus, more so, some of the resources cannot be used fully. This is called containers principle in economics, because you can't. It's an another example. So if you buy a bus, let's say, for example, which has a capacity of 30 passengers every day, but your organization doesn't have 30 people leaving every day from work to home or whatever, you're providing that service. There are mainly 5 employees. So that means your bus is not being used fully in that case, right? So to have fuller utilization of resource, fuller use of resource, you need to have a larger scale of operation. So, and when you have a large scale of operation, your business is able to use those bigger resources fully. That's the idea. And that means the cost will go down, right? Spreading of the other costs, we call it the research and development, or having access to advertising, or reduce distribution costs in the warehousing stock. This all relates to marketing economies of scale in a nutshell. What is marketing economies of scale? Because if if McDonald's was to advertise anywhere, it has got 10,000 outlets in Australia. That means $100,000 worth the cost of an advertisement would just mean, hardly $1,000 per outlet. So marketing economies of scale. So benefits in marketing. Also, you have the economies of scale because of bulk buying. Because if yours is a big organization, if the business is big, it enjoys the economies of scale or bulk buying, right? Bulk buying, economies of scale. Bulk buying. Bulk buying is buying in huge amounts, buying a lot. And that's where you can. This is called, likewise, you have financial economies of scale, because if Bill Gates wanted to take a loan or wanted money, he just needs to issue a public offer or go to the bank, and banks will say, please take whatever you want. Bill Gates, I believe you all know about Microsoft. So yeah, this is called uh, financial economies of scale. What it means is that a big organization is able to take money or borrow money at better terms, lower interest, lower hassles, because it has got more assets to offer. Plus, also it has that credibility, and so many other things can work out. But a small organization cannot collect money from public, right? If it wanted to expand. So producing at large scale has a lot of benefits. And also, if there are byproducts, this is a large scale cattle farmer could have enough cow manure to bag it and sell it to the people's garden, right? So it's so interesting. You can use not only the actual product, but also use the byproducts to have those. And that would mean lower costs. Internal diseconomies is just the opposite, as we said, the problems that will arise due to a large scale of production, and that is disadvantages to the farmers, and the firms can encounter a lot of issues. I mean, the best example I would rather want to quote, think of it in your classroom. If there are about 20 students, a scenario, it's beautiful. Everyone gets the attention, perfect teacher-student ratio, right? But if there were 200 students in the same classroom, do you think anyone would get the same level of attention? Maybe not. Not even that fraction of that attention. All it is meaning is when the organization becomes large, it becomes difficult to manage. And people can feel left out. People can feel, not included. And that's where they may stop, they may start being less productive. And the files can keep moving from one table to the other. And all these things can simply add to the lower, the lower returns and increased costs. I was trying to take up the highlighter, but it is not working, it seems. So all I'm talking about is this, okay? So all these things can actually lead to the diseconomies of scale. And likewise, the external is, as I said, benefits of others' work. So if we had a bumper crop, a good harvest season, and I sell orange juices, and there was a good harvest season for oranges, the cost of production for me will go down because the oranges that I will acquire for making the juice will become cheaper, right? So it was not, I didn't do anything, but still my business is getting that external economy, that help, that support, or that benefit, let's say the right word, because of the lower resource prices, right? Likewise, better technology. Things have changed, isn't it? The organizations have literally benefited just with that, those online delivery portals. So many organizations have benefited, although they didn't do anything to do that research and development, but they are now able to, have more than 500 students in the same class because it's an online class. So yes, improved infrastructure. I mean, can the business do anything about it? You can't do the infrastructure, but because the country is doing better, or maybe infrastructure is being developed, your transportation costs are becoming lesser and things are becoming better for you. So that's again an advantage. But this is external. Remember, external is not in your control. So anytime you have a question on economies of scale, external or internal, just ask yourself, is it in my control as a business or is it not? If it's in my control, it's internal. If it's not in my control as a business, external. As simple as this. And likewise, you would have, of course, I mean, if more people are educated, more skilled migrants come to Australia, we will have economies of scale, external economies of scale, because we are getting better people from outside. But hiring them, again, is my question. So it's a little mix there again. And development of support industries or competition in the capital market. So do I have more access to money? Has the interest rate gone down so I can acquire more money? It's not in my control. Reserve Bank does it. The banks do it, but still I can benefit as a business. And that's an external economy. Yeah. External diseconomy. If the government has imposed a tax, can I do anything about it? No, but my costs will go up, right? And that's what it is all about, the external diseconomies. I hope it helps you, and to revise through the idea of long run, but essentially revise through the time periods first and the short run costs, and then maybe look into this topic. Thank you for your time there. And meeting for all.